Hello guys, I've been sick, so that's why I haven't been making videos as frequently, even though we got new characters. But here I wanted to make a video on Sagat's zoning, his fireball game, and some more specific aspects of his spacings, which fireballs to throw, at least in my interpretation of what you can do with the character. So let's take a look at it. Alright, so let's talk about basically talk about his basic options for his zoning. He has his low shots, high shots, his uppercuts, and to an extent his knees. His knees are generally for due to their active frames, they're for spacing out. A lot of them can be used for pressure, like EX knee can be used to set up frame traps, and light kick and a light knee can be spaced to be 0 on block. Crouching medium punch and an EX knee can be spaced to be +1. And heavy knee has several setups to get it to be plus. And but the benefit of doing this, especially in like a sort of close range, is that they will, because they're active throughout the entire time, and they go over low attacks, or they low crush really well, which means that you can basically throw them out, and they'll generally beat, as soon as they get into their active frames and start moving, they'll generally beat out a lot of stuff. They can be jabbed out pretty early on, like, because they have massive hurt boxes. The knees have massive hurt boxes before he lunges, extending forwards, but once he gets into the air, then he generally like just moves and collides with any buttons or normals and either wins or trades. Which means that they're also handy for dealing with opponents' neutral jumping if you don't have a fireball ready. As soon as you see them jump or neutral jump or forward jump from full screen into a range that you can space out your heavy knee, you can just throw it out, and they won't be able to press a button in time to beat it out on the ground unless it's something invincible. And then you'll be able to beat them if they try to jump or press a button, and then you'll be plus on block. So I found that to be really handy if you don't have if your fireballs are still on, like if they jump over one of your fireballs, neutral jump or forward jump from really long range, space out your heavy knee if they forward jump onto it. If you're not really necessarily in range or within the time that you can Kara uppercut, or for any other reason, if you don't want to risk Kara uppercutting. If you have a fireball available and your opponent is jumping or anything like that, you can usually snipe it out of the air with a heavy fireball. But anyways, yeah, on to the next. His low tiger shot or grand tiger shot is pretty useful. It's his better fireball to go for in most circumstances for zoning, because even if, not just because they can crouch the high one, but the high one doesn't necessarily even hit them on jump startup any better. They can jump over that just as easily as they can jump over the low one most of the time. It is faster. It's the high one, I would say, is better for really long ranged, especially the heavy high one, because say if you're looking to lock the opponent down, and get a frame advantage, you're much better off getting a frame advantage if you get them to block the low tiger shot at a certain range. That's +13 right there, +10, and you need to be at least like around +7 to +9 to be able to throw another one without fear of them jumping in on your next low tiger shot. So if you get them to block at this range, you can throw another one, you can throw another one, and they'll have to jump or do something to break that. Like start throwing fireballs, get rid of any of the fireballs. As soon as you get to a range where you can throw fireballs that are at least +7 or +9 around that range depending on the opponent's jump speed and jumping attacks. Then you can just keep whipping them out until the opponent breaks the cycle. So the problem with throwing the light fireball is that if the opponent neutral jumps over it, then it takes a while for it to leave the screen. Versus if you're at really long range, the best option to go for would be the heavy high fireball, because basically if they're not jumping over it, the best option that they would have, the option that they would have to deal with it is just crouch underneath it, and that is a form of locking them down. It's not quite the same as having them block one and getting plus frames, but at a certain range, like the fastest that they can move after waiting for the fireball to go over their heads is, at this range, it would be like a better option to go for. It would be just as plus. You would have the freedom to throw another action because of when they would be able to act again. And throwing the heavy high fireball, since the high fireballs move faster, especially the heavy one, would make it leave the screen faster, which would allow you to deal with things like neutral jumps better. Because if someone neutral jumps your low fireball at this range, or at that far away, if they neutral jump it, you won't be able to throw another fireball before they land on the ground, and at that point it'll become a risk, because if you throw another fireball, they would be able to get a jump in on it as soon as you're able to throw one after your other one left the screen. So you'll have to use other methods to stop the opponent from neutral jumping at that range, which is why it's easier to do the heavy fireball from really far away, but other than that, just use the low fireball. Low fireball is the best option in most circumstances. And then against characters with slides, or like Guile, who can do his crouching walk, that sort of thing, the high fireball gets even worse. Alright, so then you have your uppercuts. Your uppercuts actually don't work at super close range, because even your smallest, your light uppercut, will still move pretty far forwards. So there's been a lot of like footage of people online like whiffing light uppercuts because the opponent's jump just went past it. Like so. So, jump, air-to-air medium punch is pretty good. And walking under and then doing a cross-cut DP is pretty good. So anyways, yeah, like I said, the frames that you need to be able to throw another another fireball are, without fear of the opponent jumping in, are as follows. So one thing about Sagat's low fireball is that, well, one, he's crouching during it, which allows him to duck underneath some other things, and if the opponent jumps at him, it's not quite as bad, because they have to get lower before they can punish him for it, even though the low fireball has slightly more recovery than the high fireball. The high fireball has him standing, and the low fireball has him crouching. So they're actually almost exactly the same in terms of the frame advantage that you need to be able to throw one safely, because if the opponent jumps at the same time, he'll usually punish them both the same. The high fireball will probably recover one frame faster than the low fireball in terms of what you need to be able to not get jumped in on. And the high fireball will recover faster against things that are not jump-ins, like anything that's projectile invincible. Like if you're at this range, you get her to block, like a Cammy to block something, you throw that. You'll probably be fine against an EX drill. The high fireball will recover better against projectile invincible moves, because projectile invincible moves don't care whether or not Sagat is standing or crouching. But anyways, beyond that, yeah, you need about +9 on block to be able to throw another fireball safely. Another low fireball, you need to be about +8 to throw another high fireball safely. You need to be about +8 to throw an EX low shot safely. You need to be about +6 to throw an EX high shot safely without fear of jump in. So that was about +8, and I wasn't able to jump in. If I get any closer, like +6. Easy jump in on the next fireball. Like I said, +9. He's able to recover if I jump as soon as possible, and anti-air. Like I said previously, you can option select if you think your opponent is going to, if they're about to block or otherwise get hit by one of your fireballs, you can then input a heavy or medium low tiger shot, which if they jump over it at the last second, will cause you to get a forward hard kick or a forward medium kick, which you can then Kara cancel. So if I put this on, that's +14. He's clean to do another fireball. But if I jump previously, it becomes a forward hard kick, which you can Kara cancel into an uppercut. So I have him doing that option select right now. Sagat needs to be about +14 to be able to get a forward hard kick into light uppercut. He needs to be about +14 if he's going to throw another fireball and then option select it. In terms of range that he would have to be, I suppose if I was going to apply a number to the range he has to be from his opponent, I would say that I would give it a number of the plus frames that he would be if he threw a light tiger shot. So that range of being at 14 is exactly where he would have to be. Yeah, +14 right there is the range where it would be ideal to do the forward hard kick Kara cancel option select to anti-air. Any closer, and it would probably whiff or lose. Like so. And for him to be able to leave it at just the forward hard kick, because forward hard kick with Sagat is also an anti-air, he would probably have to be at the range where his light fireball would be +20. So about this far away, he would be able to just anti-air with the forward hard kick itself, which could get a crush counter. Yeah, like I said, the thing that you need to start your fireball plan so that you can keep throwing fireballs without the opponent jumping in on you, forward jumping on you, is you need to be at a +9 or +9 at least, and then you can keep throwing fireballs. And Sagat's fireballs have a lot of push block. Unlike all the other fireball characters, I believe his have the most push block out of... I might be wrong about that, but his are not necessarily as good on block as Guile's or as slow as Guile's, but his push the opponent back a lot farther. It's very difficult for opponents... see, because if you're playing against Guile, you can at least make or keep your ground, depending on your character's walk speed, by just walking forwards and then blocking each of his sonic booms. You can't do that against Sagat. Sagat's, every time you block one, it pushes you so far back that you lose your ground. So I would say get to +9 or whatever with your light tiger shot, and then you'll be at the range where you can keep throwing your heavy tiger shots or your medium tiger shots, which the heavier the version, the faster it'll go, which means that it'll be better to stop them from trying to walk forwards. And so long as the heavy one's at the range where it can be at least +9, then you can keep throwing it. And then once your opponent's this far away, see, they can break it by neutral jumping it or forward jumping it at specific ranges. You can usually anti-air, depending on how far away your opponent is. Like at this range, if they jump over it, you can just light uppercut. And like I said, so long as you're at the range or +9, throw another one, light uppercut if they jump over the second one. But the farther away you get, then light uppercut doesn't work quite as well. But if you're more plus, you can uppercut with the heavy, which has more range. The EX one is the same startup and invincibility as the light one, and it has more range, not as much as the heavy one. But the EX one is really useful in a lot of situations. If you're not confident that the light one will reach, if the opponent like empty jumps or something, you just go for the EX one, and it'll win. So like that. Like in a situation, it's like you're plus 10 or plus 11, I think is the range. Yeah, because plus 10, you'll still get jumped in on at that range. You'll still get uppercut at that range, but let's go to, yeah, minus 12. Yeah, there you go. That's the range where it'll start to whiff. Unfortunately, at plus 12, you're still not at enough of a frame advantage that they can't beat out your heavy uppercut. So this is one of the dead zones in Sagat's zoning and anti-airing. Is when he's exactly like plus 12 or plus 13, he won't be able to he won't necessarily be able to heavy uppercut, but he also won't necessarily be able to light uppercut. So you have to be very, very precise with your spacing and choosing to like say, because if you can go for a medium uppercut in those situations, because medium uppercut for Sagat has true invincibility past frame 3, I suppose. It's a lot like the heavy uppercuts for other characters. So you can totally medium uppercut at like the ranges where your fireball will be plus 10 or plus 12. You can do that, and it'll reach. But your medium uppercut will start to lose at like plus 10 or plus 9, depending on your opponent's jump-ins, what their good jumping buttons are. Your medium uppercut will start to get stuffed. So if you don't want to take that risk, and you're not entirely sure about the spacing, because it is very precise, safest option is just to EX uppercut, which works anywhere from the plus 8 to the plus 13. Then once you're like plus 13, plus 14 out, you can start doing the heavy uppercut. A lot of the times it will trade if your opponent's pressing a jump-in button. But, yeah. The damage will be, like, comparable, but you'll still get the uppercut. And, getting beat out of it will improve the knockdown because you'll recover faster. And you can move in and get more screen position. But the heavy uppercut will definitely trade a lot of the time. And you can use the heavy uppercut all the way out to like plus 18 range over here, because it'll still tag them if they're jumping in. So those are Sagat's like options against forward jumping. And then when it's farther away, he'll be doing like Kara heavy uppercut or Kara EX uppercuts to anti-air. So like I said, that's how Sagat deals with forward jumping, but then it's like you also need to stop the opponent from neutral jumping, because that will break the your cycle of fireballs. Because then you'll have to wait until your other fireball goes off screen, and then by the time it does, you won't necessarily be in a situation where you're guaranteed to throw another one without getting jumped in on. So it's also important to be able to stop your opponent from neutral jumping them as well. Unfortunately, there's not really much you can do about them preemptively neutral jumping at like this range. If they just neutral jump right there and then just like go over the fireball at about that range, not a whole lot you can do. You'll just have to go back to playing neutral until you get another opportunity to get a plus 9 fireball or something. When you're this far out, your usual best options to go for would be like doing setting up some spacing for a knee, heavy or EX knee to be plus on block. Like so. But that's really not guaranteed at that range. In this range, neutral jumping is a problem for Sagat. If they neutral jump your fireballs, which is why it's often like you want to start going for the heavy fireball as soon as possible, so you don't have to wait as long for it to leave the screen. Because if they neutral jump it really early, then you can just back up and throw another one. without too much risk. Like so. Another situation where you might find yourself in would be, here, hang on. Right after you anti-air, if you anti-air with, an uppercut, you'll usually be more plus than you would be if you'll always be more plus than you would be if you just regularly landed the uppercut on the ground, which allows you to get a meaty fireball, which will most certainly be, more plus than it would usually be. So if you get a meaty high fireball because they have to block high, they don't have to block high as soon as they're getting up. If they press a crouching normal, then they definitely don't have to block high. So if he was going to sweep on wake up, it would punish you for doing a high tiger shot. But if he's going to block, you can set up like a meaty high fireball, and then that will most certainly be plus enough for you to do another uppercut or another fireball. And then at that range, if he neutral jumps, you can set up a heavy knee. Or rather an EX knee at that range. Like so. And that will be plus at that range. But beyond that, you have to be very precise with your spacing to be able to stop them from neutral jumping or just back off. At this range, super far out, you can set up, you can be throwing heavy low tiger shots, and then immediately afterwards do like a so you do a low tiger shot, and then really late you'll do like a medium tiger shot, and if they neutral jumped it, then by the time that if you time it correctly and at the right spacing, by the time that you input your medium tiger shot afterwards, it'll be a forward medium kick because the fireball's still on screen, but the fireball will leave the screen by the time that you get to the cancel window, so then you can Kara cancel that into a fireball, and they won't be able to jump over that because they'll be landing from their neutral jump. Like so. But in general, in most circumstances, oh, by the way, I should mention that you can't really do that if you have super, because there's hardly any way to input that you won't get a Kara cancel into super. So, yeah. But in general, it's kind of hard for Sagat to deal with people neutral jumping as fireballs. If they just neutral jump in mid-screen just because they feel like it, and you don't have a fireball on screen, it's no problem. Like, you can just do heavy fireballs, and then you can take a knockdown, or as soon as they get knocked down, you can V-skill up. You have the time to do that. Set up a long-ranged heavy tiger knee so that you can be plus on block after they land. But other than that, it's like if the fireball's already on screen and they neutral jump it, not a ton you can do to keep them within the fireball loop, as far as I've tested. As for entering into the fireball loop, where you can just do this, and if they're blocking it, then it's fine. There's like, I'm not saying that it's bad, like super bad that you can't stop them from neutral jumping, but it's like Guile has some really long-ranged anti-airs that he doesn't need to use. Like, he can just do forward hard punch, and he can stop people from neutral jumping. But anyways, with Sagat, if the opponent neutral jumps, then you're still at a frame advantage. You just can't throw another fireball immediately, which means that you can just back off or move forward slightly. You're still in control of the screen. You just can't throw another fireball until your previous fireball is left. So, you can still do whatever you want. Back off, move in. But, yeah, anyways. To re-enter into the frame advantage of +9, where you can start throwing fireballs until your opponent neutral jumps or does something else, like projectile invincible to get out. The ways you can get into that are Because you don't have that many things. Sagat doesn't have that many things that are legitimately like +9. So instead, it's really just like looking for an opportunity to throw another fireball, get them to block. Light fireball will be +9 at about there. Medium fireball will be +9 or at about there. Then heavy fireball will be +9 at about there. So they're actually pretty close together. And because the fireball has a lot of pushback, it's really easy to push them. If they block one fireball, you can usually push them back into a range where you can just start throwing the heavy fireball and it's fine. The only other way you can get them to be like, you can get to be about +9 with Sagat, just from his footsies, would be, because you can get to be about +6 if you do the max range like crouching medium punch into light tiger shot, +5 or +6. Which is still not quite enough, but if you frame trap them and they block, see if they get hit by the max range crouch medium punch into the tiger shot, it actually won't be any more plus. Not because it's not more plus to hit them, but because you're not as far away anymore, because crouching medium punch pushes them a lot farther back on block than it does on hit. So if you do crouch medium punch on hit, it'll still be like just +5 if you land that. But if they block the first hit of crouch medium punch, which will push them back farther, and then they get hit by the fireball, then you'll be at +10. And then you can start throwing your fireballs again. By the way, for other anti-airs for Sagat, I should mention that standing hard kick is really good. For a heavy button, it doesn't whiff for very long. It hits a really good angle. It's fast, and it can crush counter, and it's a lot safer than like whiffing an uppercut. So if you're not confident about the range for getting a Kara uppercut or anything, but you don't want to whiff if they don't press a button, you can do heavy kick, and you might get a crush counter. It's really easy to combo off of those, depending on the height. You don't necessarily want to like Kara into heavy uppercut, because you might not have time to do that, but yeah, depending on the time or the height, you can get a Kara into something. At this low, you won't be able to. You can just go for a heavy uppercut, depending on how far away you are. And anyways, backtracking, beyond that, the other ways you can get your fireball game started is like the same with any fireball character that you would play across any of the Street Fighter games, where it's like you see your opponent whiff something, your opponent jumps. You can get them to block a fireball as soon as they hit the ground. And that sort of thing. You can find your safe opportunities or safe ranges to throw other fireballs, and then if your opponent blocks, you can get them into that rhythm. So yeah, I think that that's the most that I've been able to find out about like the specifics behind Sagat's zoning game. Anyways, I hope that information is helpful. I'm going back to sleep.